Lovely Tuesday morning for we. Today is the 4th of November, 2025. It is 8:10 a.m. on this cold November morning. My name is Frasquello. I go by Saruno, and we live in a rolling condo that is a bus that has been converted into a livable space. We also do van life, which is basically taking a van and arranging it to live in. And I've been doing this full time for 2 years, or actually just over 2 years. I began the process approximately 2007, in which the goal was to take a cargo van and make it arranged, which did happen, to be able to go to California, Los Angeles, because the idea was to become involved with the entertainment business. Because I was essentially interested to become an actor. So 2007 is when the inspiration began. Van life. That did. I didn't take the van with me, and because I was concerned about how far California is from this location, um, and I did go to California and learned that it's competitive, and for me it was expensive, and so I wasn't able to stay long enough to establish permanent residency, um, or first of all the income to establish residency. So ultimately, I come back and stayed in the townhome that we was renting at the time. So years later, approximately about 10 years later, about 2017, 2018 is when the inspiration happened, where it was revealed to me that um, I should pursue an alternative living again. And so I was involved with another cargo van in which I wasn't full time in it, but I was experiencing living without the traditional amenities of a home. And what I most certainly learned is how much I don't need, how much we don't desire. And then the place that we was living in, which wasn't the townhome anymore, I was living in an actual home, like um, a 2-story home, lovely, charming. However, um, it wasn't fully home in my mind because it felt like there was unspoken rules, or a non-verbal communication of what rules that I had to be mindful about. And so I didn't feel like it was a home that me can be comfortable. And some of that was um, learned, that I really shouldn't get comfortable, because at times there were um, hints of conflict, that even if it was masked, that it wasn't uh, a major issue, it was still a concern. So the inspiration led to me using the home that me was renting as a space that I could maybe create an alternative lifestyle. And I started looking at what kinds of options that can be lived in that will have wheels or a motor. And I started looking at UPS trucks, FedEx trucks, step vans, U-Haul, box trucks, typically 15 feet and more. And that would be 15 feet within the box itself, not the drive area. And a U a U-Haul vehicle is the largest vehicle at that time that I've experienced driving on. It was probably about 15-foot box, and it had a van cabin. So I suppose that could be maybe 20, 25 feet, perhaps, from bumper to bumper. And so that was encouraging that I could possibly have a vehicle of that size to live in. But because of how much I wanted to have to furnish the home, then I thought of a 26-foot box truck from U-Haul would be suitable. And I was concerned about driving a 26-foot box truck. It just looked like maybe that might be risky, but I wanted the space. So, and I still haven't driven a vehicle no larger than the original box truck, which was a 15-foot box truck, maybe 25 feet total. And one may say, well, it's easy to drive, you don't have to worry about it, but it's easy to say that when it's not your experience. And or if that is your experience, it's easy for me to still wonder, just because you can do it, you know, do I have any challenges with doing it? At least I'm cautious enough to question and answer what are the concerns about that, opposed to just hoping nothing go wrong and perhaps it could be disastrous. So I'm cautious. So anyway, so I used the home to outfit items to learn what can we keep versus not keep. And what I learned is certainly I have to get smaller items to furnish the home, in which the sofas that I'm using now, because there's a twin sofa, just like what you see now with the drapes, the 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 table with the platter on top. This has a twin right across from me, and even the fabric is there's a twin on the other side. If you was to rotate the camera, one can see. And so I ordered these because they're smaller than the traditional sofas that we had. The traditional sofas I had were for lots of people. It was very comfortable but heavy recliners, and which I accepted that that's not going to go in a small space as this. And I didn't know it was going to be this, but it was essentially I was thinking just um, decreasing size of objects that we have and just less of possessions. So this sofa is the legs come with it. We're about or is about this tall, which is I guess about 6 inches. In which when they came from Asia, which was an Amazon find, immediately I saw that that's going to be low to the ground and possibly may not fit everywhere we needed to go in case we wanted to have a space that might have humps. Because that's what I thought they were called. And I learned they're called wheel wells. And so some of the U-Haul trucks did and didn't have the wheel wells. Some and same with the other rigs that I was looking to consider. So then I started seeing buses via YouTube, and thought like, okay, that is an option because I love how wide it is, how tall, and also the materials are superior in a lot of ways. And I don't want to sound like me know it all, but just the research that me have gathered or learned, I should say, um, compared to some of the step vans and some of the fiberglass ceilings and like some of the recreational vehicles like the traditional RVs or fiberglass. And so as a result of that, me was concerned that the fiberglass is going to become weathered and subjected to cracks, leaks. And so um, I was looking for metal construction for walls, interiorly, exteriorly, and ceiling, just metal. And a school bus was not only what 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 those materials are, but it's also they have windows because the multitude of the other rigs, one had to create some windows, and that would not be in my skill set. I primarily wanted to just um, do what is comfortable for me to do, even though that ultimately didn't happen either. Because when I got involved with this situation, it was um, challenges that I figured maybe this isn't for me. So, so after learning what can go inside of the home to mimic or mock the floor plan of a vehicle that's going to be 8 feet wide, that's about um, what I figured what I figured the vehicle would be, and I didn't know what it would be. So I did some internet research and I found a bus with no knowledge of buses, but if it's gasoline or diesel, I just went upon experience of just what I seen before. No mechanical knowledge, no electrical knowledge, um, no no understanding about cost for preventative maintenance or maintenance, repairs, replacements. No knowledge. I just went upon just what we seen before, and went to go see a yellow 40-foot school bus that had the motor in the front, and it's called a dog nose slang, which means the motor is primarily on the outside of the driver's area, and then you got the flat nose that also have a motor in the front, but it could be underneath the the driver and passenger perhaps. But this one has the motor in the rear of the coach. So that was $1,850 US, and it wasn't available to drive because forgive me for not knowing the correct name of the part, but it's I guess the drive axle or the drive train. I just know that it was a part hanging, a long shaft hanging on the ground, and the person said that he's going to get it ready. But I figured, well, he didn't give me a time that it'll be ready, and he wanted $1,850. So I figured by the time the repair or replacements are made, perhaps the price is going to be more, which would make sense. And so I figured, well, I'll research one that even if it is more, that is roadworthy. And so that's what happened. And um, that was also in the year 2023. And so in September, via Facebook Marketplace, um, I see in early September, I saw these buses, and they were parked in what looked like a country setting. Forgive me for saying that. It's not to come across as stereotypical. It's just I now know it was a country setting, but it didn't look like it was inner city at all. And so I figured, well, perhaps it's far from where me located. And I figured immediately that either the post was inaccurate about the price, or the posting was contained false information, or was just a someone being deceptive. Because I figure it's, the old saying goes, if it sounds too good to be true or looks too good to be true, maybe it's no truth. And so I immediately accepted doubt of the post, because I see two blue buses that looked attractive, and I still have the post saved. Pictures of the buses from the original state were saved, and it didn't contain any concern in the wording. The price just seemed like, that's just maybe that's a down payment, um, because I figured if they're in a road-worthy condition, I just figured, to my ignorance, that one bus is going to probably be about 15,000 and more. So I figured if you got two buses, it's got to be about $25,000 to $30,000, because according to some of the YouTubers, have shared how much they pay for a bus, and many times the shorter buses that were shown were um, equal to more expensive than the larger bus. So the advertisement was immediately figured, um, it's too good to be true, and look at the next ad. And so that's what I did. And I saw many ads that show either rust or much older, higher miles, it was further away. Um, Shared that it had mechanical concerns, or just concerns that it would just not be within what I can service or what me can have accomplished for it. Or it was too long, too short, low roof. And so as a result of that, it just wasn't a match. And then we also thought, well, those two buses, I just maybe these need to actually communicate with the seller and prayerfully get questions answered. Un momento, por favor. So ultimately, um, I visited the one that had the two buses. Well, I visited the ad that had, visited the seller that had the two buses. And he shared a video of the older one that's with the diesel mechanic being driven. And I was wondering still, is there a concern? And he explained that he had a business idea for them. They're twin buses. Couldn't tell them apart unless you just look at the mileage. But otherwise, he had a business idea that essentially wasn't realistic, I guess, for his, perhaps that wasn't realistic anymore. But according to his communication was that he got them for fun, and he just had a change of what he wanted to do. And so when he showed me the video of one being driven, that encouraged me to want to pursue it. I'm having vitamins. So the other one, which is the one that may end, there was no video of it. But just to have one evidence of a vehicle being operational was encouraging. So he wasn't able to educate me about the bus as such, but it was enough for me to pursue it. And I was attracted to the fact that they wasn't jello, because I was concerned that, according to online sources, that certain states have laws where the bus cannot be school bus yellow, and it can't have the mechanical components that make it an emergency school bus amenity. Got to remove it, like the lights. It cannot say school bus. The stop sign has to be removed, and for certain buses that might have like the bumper, the extendable pole in front of the front bumper that comes out, that protects people or whomever to not walk in front of the bus. That has to be removed. And so I figured, well, this bus had all that deleted. But I was still curious about, is it going to be an investment that we can afford? Because I was almost like afraid to ask the price, to be truthful. But I was intrigued. And so he shared with me enough information for me to make a decision to basically pursue it. But there was still some hesitance, because I was thinking, well, where are you going to place these buses if you accept ownership? And so that's when I had the conversation about if he can help me to keep them parked here. And so that's when he acquainted me with the property manager or the property owner, in which the account was established for me to keep the buses where they are, or it would be kept there. So I did make the purchase. That was, he asked me did I want one or both buses, and that also had had me concerned about, well, how much is one? Because I never asked the question. I was just so concerned that I wasn't gonna be able to afford any of it. But it's nonsensical what I'm sharing. But that's just what happened. I'm just being accurate with you. I knew I wanted one, but I was intrigued by having two because that was the vision that we had in the year 2017, 2018 to have two, but it would have been on a property that me will have ownership of. And um, so I figured, well, how much is for both? And when he told me the price for both, um, I agreed to the price. And I was thinking, whoa, not only I am going to pay for buses that I have no property for, but now it's, I don't know what it need mechanically or electrically. I don't know what repairs or replacements are needed. And I was thinking, should I even do this? So I did complete the transaction and established an account to leave them there, in which this was September the 30th, 2023. And the same day that it was purchased, which was in the early morning, um, I later learned he had one arm. He has one arm, excuse me, not had, but has one arm. And I'm saying it because it kind of like, oh, well, perhaps. Because when I gave him the stack of money, and I was thinking, okay, uh, we're going to shake hands, this and that. And he did everything with the same hand. And then it was like, oh, okay, perhaps that's maybe why the bus idea, and maybe not. Uh, maybe he can do something I didn't know he could do, like maybe operate the bus, or maybe he'd had someone operate the bus for him. I don't know. But then he volunteered to tell me, cause he took his jacket off and he was just in his shirt, and that's when I was sure that he just had one arm. And he said that he had a motorcycle accident where he was driving like 140, something like 120, 140 miles per hour, and the accident occurred. So it sounded like he was maybe unnecessarily speeding. Um, we went to the Bureau of Motor Vehicles the same morning, or perhaps the afternoon, and I was thinking, from what I've heard YouTubers say, or at least one, or likely just one, I should say, where one had to possibly have like a brake endorsement form, and without knowing what that is or why that's necessary, an air brake endorsement form. And then I thought, my goodness, am I going to have a CDL? Am I going to have um, special forms completed, an inspection? And I just thought, this is probably not going to be the transaction that's going to go well. I'm probably going to regret this and be stuck with two buses that I'm not going to have the requirements met. And so I was given a form that has questions of, since you want to convert this to a motorhome, do I have these specific amenities? And Me didn't tell the truth. Me put, yes, I have a sink. Um, uh, I believe a toilet was one of them. I'm almost certain a toilet was one of them. A sink, a bed, and there might have been one more amenity to make it acceptable as a motorhome. And then an inspection was supposed to be arranged to verify that these items are there. Um, Not only the buses were not at the site of the Bureau of Motor Vehicles, but all the seats were in it. And someone fortunately didn't do their job. Thank you. Because otherwise, I wouldn't have a title that now has it re-registered as an MH motorhome. Doesn't have RV on it. It has MH for motorhome, and it has motorhome on there for both of them. So no one did a visual inspection. No one told me to bring the buses there. It was they accepted the almost $400 to complete the transaction, and I believe that transaction included the license plates, um, along with the re-registering it. So it might have been like $382, $386, and I believe that was for the entirety of the transaction, along with plates as mentioned. And when we left with those documents, very relieved that I went into the faith and unknown with faith that I can get these registered as motorhomes to believe now I can start the process. And so we appreciated that although he didn't inform me much about what I need to know about the buses, and neither one were started nor test driven or started, so they couldn't have been test driven. It was just went upon went upon his word and the untrained eye, or what I seen. Um, and when he leave me with the buses, and I'm looking at two 33-foot long 2006, in my opinion, low miles, 12 window school buses with the side door. And I thought, when I went inside and saw all those seats and the trash and the yuck, I was thinking, how am I going to get started? I was excited to get started, but also concerned how to get started. And when I believed I can get started, when I believe I was able to get started, it took inappropriate tools that were not only wrong, but also inferior material. And I wasn't able to make progress when I started. To remove one seat was the most difficult job we have ever done. I took a socket wrench, and forgive me if the name isn't correctly said, and then I took another tool that grabbed, okay, so the socket wrench went on top of the bolt, and we talking about the part that's bolted to the wall that holds the seat to the wall. But I figured I'll try there because that was the only visible place that I was able to see like I could possibly get started. Because the floor just looked like you couldn't do nothing with it. I tried that too, and nothing turned from the on the floor. for the seat. It was turnable if you had maybe the proper tool and maybe somebody underneath it, but otherwise I went to the wall to detach it from the wall, and just to try to turn any part of the bolt or the nut. It revealed to me I had the wrong tools, and I needed to also be strong enough to to break it, so to speak, to break the likely rust or whatever it is that's keeping it, or torque that has it bonded together like that. And it was difficult and dangerous because it was very easy to injure myself, which did happen. Um, it was most certainly no easy way to do any of it. So once I finally got an understanding of how to do it, there was still no easy way to do it. It was all difficult. Um, and just to see it wiggle from the wall, and I figure, well, maybe I can bypass cutting it from the floor and just break it. No. Those seats were anchored um, in 2 to 3 places on the wall. I should be specific to that, but I'm going to say definitely 2 places it was anchored to the wall, and 3 places anchored to the floor. That was 3 legs to most seats. A couple of them, primarily like the side door seat, had 4 legs, but it was still bolted to the floor and to the no, it wasn't. It was only bolted to the floor, and it's the most difficult work I've ever done. Then it was, once the seats were removed, it was where you're gonna place it. So I started piling them on another seat that wasn't cut yet, and then once eventually I started getting seats removed, then it was, now I got all these sharp edges that I managed to cut myself, scrape, bump, lacerated myself because I had some deep cuts. Um, no infection, but what I was concerned was I gonna have permanent scars because it was just horrible how many times I've cut myself and seats fell on me because I imbalanced them or forgot they were there because I'm trying to work in the dark, or too close to me, because we're talking about these buses each are 72 passengers. So there's a lot of seats. And then the walkway between the left and the right row of seats, there's probably about 2.5 feet between the rows of seat. So it wasn't a lot of room to work with. Then there's the wheel wells, because under this and the opposite sofa, there are wheel wells there. And the wheel wells are if I may just do this, they're about this long, which is approximately, 4.5, 5 feet, about 4.5 feet, 4 feet. They're 4 feet wide, and I know this because I had some 4 feet wide foldable tables over the wheel well to try to create a way to make a sofa and make bed for it, make bed frame for it. So, and then the wheel wells are tall. They're approximately 12 inches from the floor, maybe less. So it was a lot of um, awkwardness to get started and to make progress. So again, I got all these seats piled. And then it's concerning because I could not risk unwanted attention by having seats outside the bus because I didn't want anyone to complain or tell me that we have to go. There were no dumpsters there, no trash cans there, and didn't want to have anyone opposing what we did. So I was very incognito. I kept all the seats inside until I was able to arrange them to be transported away from there. And the way that we had them transported away was the van that we lived in. And so what happened was to take them away, I put them in the van, which means I had to be very careful about not scraping the home that we lived in while transitioning to live in the bus. Um, that was primarily conditions that was primarily dark when I was there, cold when I was there, raining while we was there, um, and just unsafe. Because there was also wildlife out there too. I heard um, either a coyote or possibly a wolf. I'm not sure which was which. Howling, very close by, so close that I was wondering was it going to know that I was in a vehicle and perhaps make way to the vehicle. It was just that close. Um, a large buck or a deer came over to the vehicle. Didn't try to make way in that I'm aware of, but it was in between both buses. So there was concerns there. So I used me van to transport them away, and I stored them in the driveway of a property that we have, but the home is gone now. And that's another story that has a terrible end, to why we don't have the home now. But the driveway was used to store the seats with the cushions on them until I was able to figure what I'm going to do about scrapping them without the cushions, because we know that scrap yards ordinarily reject um, cushions. Um, and so I had to make a few trips or even several trips to remove the seats from, remind you, in case you need that, 72 passenger bus with a matching bus. So two buses of 72 passenger seats alone. So it was definitely what I would urge you to really consider if you want to get a bus with seats. Should you um, do this alone? Do you have the physical ability? Do you have the resources to be able to get help or do them yourself? Because it can be a task. It was a task for me. And approximately 3 weeks ago is when I took the last seat out of both buses, which was the side door seat, because I mean, was trying to justify keeping them. Because they were lovely seat that when one wanted to sit, the seat could be lowered. And it was spring loaded to go back up when the seat wasn't sat in. I wanted to keep that seat because I wanted to make it the side door sort of like a dining room. And I had a table there, but now that has been rearranged to be a bathroom area. So the seat was removed approximately 3 weeks ago. So now that the seats are removed and later disposed, trying to keep the cushions, and many of the cushions were just not able to be used and were dumped. I found dumpsters that I shouldn't have used, illegally dumped them. where I found like dumpsters, but that was like, well, I guess like apartment buildings were being possibly uh, emptied, and I used those dumpsters in different places, and just dumpsters. I would locate them to dispose of the many seat covers, cushions, but the iron seats themselves, we primarily had them scrapped, which I shared um, primarily half the profits to pay the person that used his pickup truck to aid me to transport the seats to be scrapped. Very lengthy video, me aware how long I'm talking, but I'm just essentially giving you a uh, a synopsis of a very real experience that this might be beneficial to someone. So maybe this might be too much information for some of you, and it might be more people who will want the highlights of what occurred than somebody who's like me who would rather have the extended version. So maybe I can learn how not to experience what that person is speaking about. So I got an empty floor plan, and I started bringing things to be able to live in it full time. And I realized that I still had a lot to decrease. The multitude of what we had was stolen from the property that we had. Again, that's another story. I'm gonna try not to digress, but it was stolen, and ultimately, the the home that had 4 floors in it, a basement, and 3 upper floors, very tall ceilings, like 15-foot ceilings, was burned. It was awesome. It was set ablaze by an evil person or people that stole from me, and likely the same person or people set the place ablaze. And there was no insurance for the property because it was primarily used for storage of business items, because I was in hopes that, and faith, excuse me, that I would have used um, one bus to live, one bus for business, and I kept the products inside of the building, figuring I would be able to do that without concern. Me was wrong. Um, and that was also a place that I figured, well, maybe if the conditions could be made right, that maybe the bus can be parked in the driveway. But that wasn't realistic either at the time, and still isn't. But it wasn't for the most part because the driveway is too narrow for an oversized vehicle. Even the cargo van that we live is too wide for the driveway because it was formerly an alley that has been blocked on one side because the another owner has the other side of the alley, which is a business. I digress, and I'm aware of that. So now back to the buses. Um, in the month of October, either the end of September or the early month of October, we were told as tenants of the property that we had to remove our rigs because blacktopping repair needs to be completed to fill in potholes from the weight of all the vehicles being on the property. It needed to be leveled. And so 2 weeks later, I had to move them, and didn't know where I was going to take them, but I was offered to take them to a shared lot by the same property manager or the property owner permitted me to take the buses to their shared lot of other owners, which was a corporate location. And that's more in the suburb opposed to the country setting that I was in. And hopefully what is understood by country versus suburbia. Um, this location, on the other hand, is for primarily box trucks that are mostly white, and the buildings had docks, and so therefore the trucks would unload and load at the docks. And then you have these two blue school buses parked in that environment was an immediate mismatch. And within 2 weeks, I saw a person um, who appeared to be a corporate figure of the lot walking by the windows of the bus. And because the windows have I suppose it probably have like maybe just because it's dark inside, but it appeared to have like a dark tint, or a factory tint, perhaps I should say. But it might have just been just being dark inside the bus itself, and then the black mesh that is here. One maybe call them bug nets, but it's mesh. And then these drapes are here, and then there's drapes across the windshield, the driver's area, and there was no way to easily look in here. Even if you look at the the bus doors, the bus doors are painted to not be able to see easily inside. So the person probably was one, if not the one, who was suspecting that perhaps because one wasn't able to see in here, that maybe it's the bus is being lived in, and as both buses are arranged the exact same, except curtains is not on the other bus, but um, the same window coverings is on the other bus. And so I got a text message from the person that permitted me to park them there, shared that owners need me to move the buses immediately. And we're talking about within either 2 weeks or just past 2 weeks that the buses were taken from the original lot to this corporate lot. And we talking approximately $800 each bus to be towed from the original location to where they were at the corporate parking lot with the shared owners. So I had to figure well where they're gonna go, and there was um, mostly either the places were further away or there was a waiting list for where these can go, and or they were rejected because they're um, school buses or not drivable. So we had the concern that should I sell these things and possibly accept a financial loss and material loss? Because there was a lot invested to get this moment. And I was within 2 weeks, I had to have these moved within 2 weeks. After having them moved from the original location, permitted to be here, permitted to be where they were at the corporate location, and within 2 weeks or just past 2 weeks, now they have to be towed away. So I'm thinking about another $800 each. And that's what me was told is by the same towing company said, we'll do the same price as before. I thought, can't complain because it's either you accept their services or not. Either you pay for it or you don't do it. And I didn't want to lose these because I was then told these are going to go to the city impound. And this is an investment that is very dear to me. And so I accepted having them told again. And I chose another location that was further away and didn't know how much it was going to cost to store them, but I knew an impound lot would not be the way to go. And I will add that me unemployed and was unemployed when this occurred. Um, Either I'm going to say less than 3 weeks ago now. Over 2 weeks ago, but less than 3 weeks ago is when this occurred. I've been unemployed since the middle of October. You're welcome to ask why, and I'll provide that story, but I'm just trying not to continually digress. It's all connected, but I'm just trying to not be so extensive that it essentially make the video boring or just where it's just not helping a person to understand the message that's being shared. So a blessing was provided by a different towing service because um, the original towing service who did the tow was not available until the next day. But because I was told that these could be towed to the city impound, the next day was too long from now or from then. The next day was too long, too far, and didn't want to accept that risk because the text indicated that he's getting a lot of heat over the owners. They really want it gone, and they are threatening to have it towed to the city impound. So ultimately, one is told here, which is the one that may leave, and I will indicate without prayerfully creating risk that this location isn't for living. That's all I'll say. And the other Rolling Condo was offered to take it to a diesel mechanic opposed to just having it towed here. And me knew of this mechanic from a Google search and wasn't aware of how much it would cost to tow it there. Is there an availability for bringing it there? And so while the other bus was being transported here, that's when he offered me to take it to the diesel mechanic, which is far. It's in the country, and what I mean by country is it's farmland where there's barns. There's like no, I ain't gonna say no, but I didn't see the traditional homes. I saw barns and crop fields, look more like wheat fields. Um, so I called the diesel mechanic, and the question was, "How soon do you need them?" I said, "Man, don't." And I think I indicated no time soon. There's no urgency. And so I was permitted to bring them there, And the driver, now I'm wondering how much does he want to extend his trip. And the blessing was, he said, we'll keep the price the same. And it was a long distance. And this driver blessed me with his kindness, taking him to a location that wasn't within his schedule. And it's with the diesel mechanic. I wasn't provided a range of time to expect progress or repairs or replacements for the bus. But what I'm gonna do with this time is to save and offer money to the mechanic so therefore it could establish that you don't have to look for me. Me will make sure that the communication is transparent and offer you money because we understand that it may cost storage, you may need parts. It's a blessing just to not have to pay for this storage and save for it to get towed again to eventually be taken to uh, a diesel mechanic. And then furthermore, it's not an urgency to have because we have this to live in. The other one is primarily um, a few items, well, several items of the generator that we use for this seat removal. There's two large, um, I don't want to call them trash cans, but containers, I should say, that has the logs that we had for this log burner here, which this has never been used, and um, going to be learning about how to use it perhaps today. I may explore how to use this thing. And for those that are maybe wondering about it, it's from Canada. I ordered it from Canada, and it's called a Cubic Mini, and this is the Grizzly model because there's a Cub model which is smaller, which this is already small, but it's smaller, and this is the Grizzly, the largest to date. And the piping is not from Cubic Mini. I've got it, but I decided to go to a local hardware store and get the piping to add to this because I just wanted to have um, a comparison of which one should be used because I needed to be curved to go out of a school bus window. It's untested, so I may have to restore using what came with it, but so far, um, neither one has been tested. Digressed again, but I'm aware of that. So the other one is with the diesel mechanic. This is here, and so this has been um, under 3 weeks, over 2 weeks that this is here, and me thankful for this location because it's near resources that we need um, to allow me to be able to save, to not have to travel far, meaning the same resources um, that are needed to complete at least the interior of living conditions can be brought locally. What if it's used or new? The resources are local and transportation is less. So that means that the vehicle can not have to be used because we really cannot afford to drive that van. As mentioned, I'm unemployed and I've shared the towing expenses for two buses, um, which is a total of four tows. So that's thousands right there, thousands of dollars US. And so now I will explain that since this lifestyle has evolved to this state, the comparison of living here versus rent, um, it's kind of a perspective of trade off because what I don't pay for rent per se, I pay for needing to provide my own propane for the furnace because I got a front and rear furnace that are both propane operated, and then also the cooker is propane operated. Um, the heating for this this is um, over $1,000 US for this log burner, and then the piping from the local hardware store makes it about $200 more. So this is possibly about $1,300 for this arrangement. Then there's providing water because there is no plumbing here as such. There is basically a 6 gallon water jug that water can be drained into. But otherwise, as far as like delivering water, me just go to a supermarket and buy um, either gallons of water, or if I could find a place that has filtered water, then they'll fill some canteens and bring them on. As far as electric, we use a solar generator that has a solar panel, which hasn't been used with the solar panel, but the solar generator is primarily powering small wax warmers as my lighting source. Perhaps I will add battery operated, rechargeable battery operated lights, but it hasn't been sourced yet because I wanted to look more home like, and I didn't want to have like the original purchase I got were strip lights, and I got those inside of boxes in the other Rolling Condo because I don't believe for those anymore. It looks too, it doesn't look like a traditional home lighting, and we want it to look like a traditional dwelling. So, so the solar generators is primarily for lights and um, computer. So, powers low wattage items. There is one item that I filmed myself using it for, which was a dehumidifier to remove the moisture from the air. And that was approximately 750 watts, which um, decreased the power from some people may call it a power bank or a solar generator within minutes. And so we learned that I had to use maybe the gasoline generator to power that. So primarily the solar generator is going to just power the computer and the low wattage lights and charging the mobile phone. So that's the trade-off is your um, system may be upfront cost like mine. Your heating, cooling is essentially probably going to be like your upfront cost. It can be expensive to live, so to speak, off grid. Um, we need the same gasoline generator to operate a air conditioner, which we don't have yet because that was stolen when the building was in place. But perhaps by the summer of 2026 or before the summer, I will have an air conditioner arrangement and dehumidifier solution. So probably the solar generator will be used to power those sources. So, far as the bathroom, there is no, again, no plumbing, just like there is no kitchen plumbing. It's just a jug that the water can be emptied to. Like there is a sink in the bathroom and a sink in the kitchen that has under it a 6 gallon jug that the water could be dumped into. Just pour it into the drain, and within the drain, it'll drain into the bucket or the container. And as mentioned, the solar generator would be the electrical portion of the home. And as mentioned, the propane furnace and cooker is the heat source. And the cool appliances hasn't been um, supplied yet, except the dehumidifier and also electric fan. We do have a plug-in electric fan that has been proven that it's low wattage enough to use the solar generator with, and that worked excellent. And it allowed me to stay cool throughout the summer heat, which was in the 100 to 10 degree, was I believe was the most high temperature that I've experienced inside of the Rolling Condo with an electric fan, and it was where drinking a lot of water and wiping with bleach water was urgent to help stay cool, and laying on the floor where the air is the coolest help to keep from needing an air conditioner. But if we had the option of going to somebody's dwelling or a motel, that would have been better than suffering in a metal home. Because with the metal home, this metal home, I'll speak for this one. It was hot and it was cold. It was uncomfortably hot and uncomfortably cold. So I insulated the floors to a degree where I got these large square shaped carpet slices that I got from a, at least in this section of the country, is called a restore, where they are previously owned items that were used probably by businesses. And I use that because it doesn't seem to, it seems like it keeps the floor from being cold. And what I did was I covered the floor. I covered the rug slices, and they're not like fluffy rug. They're flat, very dense, possibly about a couple pounds each slice. And I covered the floor for both buses, and then put linoleum floor over that, like the long roll of floor that has to be sliced into um, how it's needed to go over the wheel wells, etc. Then I put decorative square shaped 10 by 10 tiles on top of the roll flooring. So it's very comfortable for walking. Um, I actually meant to share that before the carpet slices were added to the floor, that I put roof material that I had for the building that I had, um, as the base over the rubber floor, because this bus has a rubber floor. I put the roofing material first, then I put the carpet slices on top, then I put the uncut road flooring on top of that. And then finally, I put the tile 10 by 10 tiles on top of that. So it's comfortable for walking, and it likely has allowed the home to be perhaps warmer and perhaps cooler because it's insulated. Uh, behind me, behind this drape, is a dart. Along with that's not true. It's got some people call them blackout curtains, which I'm going to add dark tart on the other side just to make the heat from the sunlight less intensive. So that's going to be added because there's two curtain rods that see that be made. One is holding what you see here, and then the second curtain rod is going to hold the tart. And that's going to also assist with keeping it cooler when it needs to be and warmer when it needs to be. And the windshield also has curtains there for, again, keeping it heated when it needs to be, or keeping it warmer and or cooler when it needs to be. Also, the door entrance has been added, the same tarp and I guess you can call them blankets, I don't know the correct name of it, in front of the doorway to reduce wind draft. And there's where it's a split down the middle to be able to just go through. But otherwise, when they come together, it reduces the draft air. So that means that maybe the cold air stay longer in here, or the heat will stay longer in here. I'm only saying this because it will maybe assist the person on how to maybe insulate your rig. It's not perfect, or I wouldn't be having on what you see now, but soon the goal is to have this log burner as the primary heat source, while the propane rear and front furnace um, starts the process until this can be the primary heat. So basically, if you leave for a long time and come home, that the front and rear furnace will begin reducing the cold until this can produce the heat to keep the warmth going. And also, I will share with you is that the heat source would be, now, just because I'm sharing this does not connote you do this, but I got these block shaped cubes of wood from a wood pallet place that builds wood pallets. The concern is that some may be treated with chemical. So that connote, if you're going to burn these, be mindful of ventilation, or should you even use these at all. And so, again, I have not used these as such, but maybe tonight or this evening, maybe we'll learn if these are suitable for burning. But really, what if it's chemical treated or not? You don't want smoke in the home anyway. So the goal is to make sure that there isn't any smoke coming into the home. So just sharing with you that these are already cut. These are considered trash to the wood pallet place. I got these free at no cost. And this is possibly helping the wood pallet place not have a disposal fee. That's just a thought. I don't know. But I didn't pay for these. And I got more I can get. But the multitude of them are in the other bus. So I have 6 milk crates of these. And because the other supply of these are in the other bus in the country at the diesel mechanic, I'm welcome to go back to the wood pallet place to get more of these. So that may be an option for you to be able to have a log burner and without buying logs, because I've saw the price of logs, and um, it just wouldn't be affordable for me with the current situation, especially being unemployed. Um, and I am employable. It's just simply um, trying to get a position that is more of a better fit for my physical abilities and what I'm willing to do if it becomes long term. But I'm not saying that I won't just take something if it comes to that, or possibly since it's coming to that. But I'm trying to not keep starting over. I'm trying to choose an employer and be accepted by that employer that it's a correct arrangement. Um, I would be mindful to attempt to bring this to an end for this video. Prefer to go on because there's many details that make up the process of just over 2 years of bus life, but the full research, as mentioned, started approximately 2017, 2018, and I would really love to be extensive, but me understand that this is probably too long for most viewers, and the multitude of my videos are low views because they're not cinematically beautiful. They're not very interesting. There is really essentially nothing eye-catching or attractive to the ear. It's just life. I'm just sharing life um, as it could be not as attractive for some people. And so I'm sort of sharing an experience that might be useful to people that might have physical challenges, financial obstacles, resource obstacles, or challenges. And so I don't expect this to be for a massive crowd. This just sort of like this is esoteric information that might be for very few people who might need to have this information. So we understand if there's going to be low views for this too. Just thinking if there's any information that, because I was talking about the trade-offs of amenities, uh, what person might need to have an upfront cost about. So as mentioned, electric, you may have to provide your own. Plumbing, you may have to supply your own, or the lack of plumbing. So that means that essentially, if you see how the toilet is arranged, I do have a video for that. That also shows um, how these amenities are arranged. They're just videos that you are welcome to source, or perhaps if I can add the links to them, that might be a way for you to be able to see the previous videos if you care to see them. Or you could just go into the profile of this channel and just look at the videos. So prayerfully, I can give you a tour of this home, and then later a tour of the other Rolling Condo, which is likely to be a studio that I could possibly do podcast or perhaps some sort of online business, um, possibly a little music studio, because I desire to do music. I just essentially the circumstances has allowed me to explore that, but it's an interest. So I do have these posted for sale via Facebook Marketplace. Primarily just the one, but I'm prayerfully that the circumstances allow me to keep that bus. But when I was threatened that these could be towed, I made a post just in case, so I wouldn't lose them. And no matches were made. And prayerfully, that's um, that reveals that we'll be able to keep these buses. And I, I do not plan to travel long distance with these buses. They will be primarily probably within the state because I'm concerned about that these are machines that are susceptible to malfunction. And I would probably just rather rent a motorhome. Therefore, when it's rented, have insurance, and therefore, if it needs to be towed or replaced, then that would be better than this arrangement than having this out on the road and be concerned about how much it will cost to go through those inconveniences. And then, furthermore, this is me home, and being that this is me home, don't want to be concerned about towing the home to the mechanic, and now you don't have your home, and you got to pay for another home to live in. What if it's a motel, hotel, or whatever inconvenient arrangement? So I'll bring this to an end. But my name is Saruno. That's my nickname. Um, as shared, you're welcome to please submit your questions, your comments, your ideas, your suggestions, your complaints, your compliments, and be kind. And I will certainly respond contingent that the views stay low like this. I'll be able to respond to every person. And as long as I'm notified, I would respond um, almost immediately because I um, have the time to do it. So, uh, and would love for you to share your experience, your journey, your current living arrangement, your desired living arrangement. And also, if you live like this, or alternatively, I would love to know your story. Why did you choose it? Um, was it a must? Did you just desire to? And essentially, let's make the world smaller by just simply vibing and ultimately love to get to know you personally, love to share myself personally. And perhaps we can go from this virtual way and be maybe I could be in your rig, your home, your space with you. You could be across from me or just some way we can be personable. And also, I would love to be a part of Schoolie Palooza, which is an event that I think is held annually, seemingly in a desert or big open land that is, um, I guess, like owned by the government. I guess it's all owned by the government. I'll take that back. But essentially, I guess it's free land that is for public use, where groups of people who live alternatively usually come together and show each other's home. Typically, you're allowed to do tours within a home, and they would probably have a maybe a couple of nights stay or a couple of days and night stay at this location. And I would love to be a part of that in the year 2026. So please um, share your thoughts, share your story, and let's just vibe. So keep every day pleasant, make time for yourself and others, make quality time to provide your undivided attention. And that's what another benefit of this lifestyle for me has been, where I got more attention to detail of what a person share, um, where me go, what I'm exposed to. I have more attention to use all my senses. Hablar contigo después y chao pa ahora. So, thank you for listening. Thank you for viewing me. And I'll be doing a follow up, possibly with a tour, or just with another update in general, even if it's not a tour. So, ciao for right now, or goodbye for right now.